Hello, CRIC attendees. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all today. Thank you so much. So I'm going to talk about how you all can transform your workplace through compassion. And we can do that by how we show up, because the reality is that how we show up matters. So I want you all to think for a moment. Has there ever been a time in your life when how you showed up changed the trajectory of your life? Or maybe there are people that have come into your life and they've made a significant difference just by how they showed up, what they did and how they did it. In fact, you may not even be sitting in this room right now if it were not for actions that you did or actions that other people did. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about showing up and compassion being a key, that center focus. But first, I want to tell you just a little bit about me and something that's relevant to, I would say, most of you. And that is because I have approximately 17 years experience in the BPO world. In fact, I've traveled all over the world and I've worked with different HR and operations teams and other teams throughout the BPO world in trying to understand how do we optimize the client and the employee experience? Because the beauty is that when we get the employee experience right, we get the client experience right. And so understanding both and the levers and the triggers that can optimize each is so critical. And that's what I did for so many years. In addition, I have more than 20 years in the HR realm. And what I did after I left the BPO world a few years ago is I created the Start with Compassion framework. I'm going to go through this quickly for you, and then I'm going to share 3 tools focused on the C in compassion, connected, and the O in open-minded. So I mentioned earlier that I created a Start with Compassion framework. Compassion is an acronym, all right? C is connected, understanding that we're all connected to each other, whether we realize it or not. Think about the circles that you're in, okay? Whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's friends, somebody's struggling, somebody's having a difficult time. You can feel that somebody is struggling. That's the connectivity, the connectedness that I'm talking about. Open-minded. Your path looks different than mine. That's okay. In fact, it's pretty awesome. We can learn from each other's differences. And how much better can our lives be? Can our awareness and our openings be by learning from the people around us? Absolutely, right? M is for moments. This is where how you show up matters was born, because you can make a conscious decision of how you show up at any moment, and how you show up does matter. P is for patience and perspective. It's being patient with yourself. It's being patient with the people around you. When we show up with a more patient perspective, when we show up with a more patient way of being, what that can do is that can help us have a more compassionate perspective, a more open-minded perspective to what's going on around us. The A is awareness and acceptance. Being aware that if you're struggling with something, if somebody is frustrating you, if you're frustrated with yourself, whatever that is, try to understand what is causing this frustration. What's going on around me? What's going on within me? That awareness. And then getting in tune with what's causing it and being able to be open and accepting the reality, or what are you going to do about it? All right. So that's the A. The first S in the compassion framework is the single most critical component of the framework. Without this, the framework cannot exist. It will fall apart. And that is silence the judger. See, the thing is that when we come into a moment, when we're interacting with somebody and we start to judge them, or we judge ourselves, okay, that connectivity that I spoke about, that connectedness, we just severed it right there. We just severed that connection with that judgment, okay? There are incredible moments of innovation and collaboration all around the world that have never happened because of the judger. And that's why I like to say, when you feel the judger showing up in your own mind, or about stuff that's coming into your mind, or you notice that you're judging others, just try to turn that volume down. Turn the volume down of that judger. Here's the beauty of the framework. When you find yourself in a moment, you've got everything that we've talked about going on, and you realize you can make a difference in your life, a difference in somebody else's life, a difference in a project, maybe, whatever it may be, there's this thing that you can make a difference in. What happens? We start to feel stimulated. We start to get excited about this idea. That's the second S. That stimulation turns to the I, which is interested. We start to get interested. We start to think about it. Maybe I could do it. Then we start to get invested. This is when we're making a plan. We're creating a strategy. We're going to do this, this, and this. And this is when we're going to do it. That's the invested. The intentional is when we actually do it. Intention, this is our motor. This is what propels us forward. So here we have this moment where we do this thing, whatever it is. And as a result, we have this incredible mood boost. Actually, what happens is oxytocin and dopamine start firing off in our brain. These are chemical mood boosters that put us in a positive mindset. Well, think about the best ideas that come to you. Are you in a positive mindset or a negative mindset? You're probably in a positive mindset, all right? But and that's what takes us to the O, because we just had this boost of positivity in our minds that leads us to the onward and upward. But what happens if we commit to a lifestyle of showing up with more compassion, of working the compassion framework? We can get to new heights and horizons. We can create a ripple effect where not only are we transforming our lives, but we're helping to transform the lives of the people around us. And this is how you can transform your workplaces. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about connected and open-minded. And I'm going to give you 3 tools in each of those. And there's even some worksheets here for you. So hope everybody's ready. All right. So the C, we already talked about what the C means, right? We're all connected, okay? Your first tool is gratitude. Folks, it's free. Gratitude is free, and it's so easy, but the impact is so massive. It could be as simple as, thank you so much for coming today. It's such a pleasure seeing you here. Wow. Somebody walks in the door and you say that to them. Did your connection between the two of you get stronger? Yes, it did. You just made them feel welcome. You made them feel like they're a part of this. You made them feel like their presence mattered. What about somebody that delivers some incredible work on a project? Okay. Wow, thank you so much for the work that you did on that project. You know what? The work you did on that project helped us get it across the line with our client. I want you to know that without your help, I don't know if we could have done that. Thank you so much. Wow, that's powerful. And guess what else it is? It's free. It's free. And so when we use gratitude, we can help people feel like they matter, and we can create this connectivity with them, and we can transform what's going on around us. Guess what else happened? You feel great because you just made somebody else feel great. That chemical boost that I started talking about, they're going to go back to their desk and they're going to do better work than they've done all day. Here's the key. Gratitude has got to be authentic. It has to be real. Okay. We've got to feel that authenticity. The next tool is prioritizing priorities. Listen, the reality is, okay, all of you here, I'm sure on any given day, you are shuffling an unbelievable amount of priorities, deliverables, responsibilities, personal and professional. And sometimes you wonder, I don't know what I'm going to do. But the thing is that if we can make a list, okay, and be really clear. I actually have a friend, okay, he manages 4 departments, about 150 employees, and he has a legal pad that this is everything that needs to be done over this next week or whatever his timeline is. And that's always going, this legal pad. And then he has a smaller tablet, and this is his daily. And he takes his top 3 priorities for each day and he puts them on the smaller pad, because if he were to work from the larger legal pad, he would get overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, it's too much. So either the night before or the morning of, he goes through and he sorts everything out, and then he makes his plan. And then he figures out, who can I ask for help? He delegates when he can, or he says, hey, I need some help with this. Okay, can you help me with this? But the fact that he has things clearly written out, He does paper. I do something similar, but I do it with OneNote. I love OneNote. That's my thing. I have my master plan in OneNote, and then I have a little sticky on my desk that has, this is what I need to focus on today. That's how I do it. But you figuring out what works for you is the best thing. But then we can ask for help, okay? But it doesn't just stop with asking for help or delegating. We can also offer help. If you see somebody struggling, if you see somebody that's having a difficult time, maybe you're in a team meeting and there's somebody that's not contributing as much as they usually do. You can see that maybe they're a little off. Stop by their desk later. Hey, just wanted to stop and say hello. How's everything going? We don't need to make a big deal about it. Hey, are you okay? I saw you in the meeting, right? But just stopping and say, hey, I wanted to see how everything's doing. How's everything going? I wanted to say hi. How was your weekend? Oh, do you need help with anything? Okay, it's easy, but we're connecting with the people around us and it makes a difference. Now I've got some indicators on the bottom of the screen here. These are things that you can tap into: curiosity, empathy, and contentment. It's difficult to share gratitude when we are not content in our own selves, right? When we talk about the Start with Compassion framework, one of the things that I love to say is you can't give what you don't have. And what that means is self-compassion. Are you giving yourself what you need? Are you being compassionate to yourself? This is foundational. The oxygen mask in the airplane, same concept, right? How curious are you about what's going on? Wondering, hey, paying attention, not going into judgment, but being curious about what's going on, right? Having empathy. Wow, you know what? I'd really like to delegate to this person, but I can see that they've been under a lot of pressure. So I'm going to see if somebody else can do it. Okay. These 3 indicators can help you understand where do you need to focus on. All right. So that's connected. But what I also have for you here is tools where you can sit down and you can think, what's one thing that you're grateful for about yourself, and write that down. What's one thing that you're grateful for about someone else? Asking for help. What do I need help with? Once you've prioritized your priorities, what do you need help with? Okay. One of the things I love to do is when I have my priority list, I'll do a second column and I'll have helpers. Okay. And there's certain things that I can delegate to people or ask people for help. Okay. That second column has been a lifesaver for me. Okay. Offering help. See, the thing is that when we talk about the Start with Compassion framework, it's not, oh, I hope it happens. It's intentional actions. It's intentional thought. It's intentional work. And that's why these worksheets are so important, because we're all busy and you may not have a moment to action it, but at least you can sit down and make a note. All right. Now, priorities. Okay. When priorities are jumbled up in our head, they're no good to anybody. But if we can sit down and we can say, what are my top priorities? What are my clients' top priorities? And what are my team's? What are the priorities for my team? And folks, let me tell you, okay, when we talk about our teams, the time that you spend with your team, it's an investment. Okay. It's an investment. It's like putting money in the bank. All right. You're not going to use that money. You may not get an immediate payoff. It's investing it. Okay. 401k, wherever that may be, wherever you like to invest. But that's what it's like with our employees. When we coach them, when we mentor them, when we give them guidance, when we make sure they have the support they need, when they need it, that is an investment. It creates loyalty, it creates independence, and it creates leaders. So I want you all to really think about part of the reason why I'm sharing this is because a lot of the people that I coach say, I have a difficult time determining time for my employees and time for the client. How do I navigate this? It's really difficult for me. And yes, it is a difficult decision. And that's where prioritizing your priorities and delegating and asking for help is so important. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's understanding that the time that you spend with your teams, creating that connection, expressing gratitude, working with them, helping them prioritize their priorities, helping them be clear on what their priorities need to be. Not just, hey, I need you to take care of this on top of 5 other things that I've already given you, but I need you to take care of this, and this is now your number one priority. That's helping people prioritize their priorities. All right. All of this makes a significant difference in the employee experience. Now we're going to talk about open-minded. All right. Limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs. Oh, my goodness. All right. So one of the things that happens, the stories we tell ourselves, the stories somebody else told us and we somehow started to believe it, and now it's a reality and maybe it's turned into a habit. But these stories that we tell ourselves, these stories that we were told, sometimes it really gets in the way of us showing up as our best self. All right. So there was actually a scenario. There's a scenario that I have. One of the sites that I traveled to years ago, they had this belief that they needed to do rotational scheduling in the offices. So every 4 weeks, okay, 4 days before before the 5th week would start, a new schedule would come out for the next 4 weeks. Well, I was sent there to understand what's causing the incredible attrition. The attrition was off the charts. So I was sent there to watch and observe for, I don't know, a week or two, and to understand. I held some focus groups. I did some observations around the site. And one of the things that I learned in these focus groups and in the observations and the different chats was that the schedulers felt that they needed to rotate the schedule. But what they didn't understand is the impact that this was having. Okay. The reality is that people's lives are dynamic. Okay. Their lives are dynamic. They have childcare issues. They have school. They have family members that they need to care for. They have other responsibilities. Maybe they have a second, maybe they have a third job. All right. That's the reality. And so when we go and we change a schedule with minimal to no notice, it makes it impossible for that person. We put them in a position where they need to choose. Do I stay or do I go? So as soon as I was able to help them understand, like, do you really need to change the schedule? Like, what's the intention? No, it's just what they'd always done. So they thought, okay, that's what we always do. That's what we do here. But the reality is they didn't have to. And as soon as they stopped changing the schedule, guess what? Their attrition dropped. Their retention, their employee engagement, their client satisfaction, all of it transformed. And that's the reality of what can happen when we come with a more compassionate mindset and look at the different processes that we have and the impact that they have to our employees or to our clients or to our clients' customers, right? All right, the next is the power of the pause. Whew. All right, the power of the pause. I call it not just a pause, but the power of the pause, because it can be so incredibly powerful. And what I mean by that is sometimes you need a minute. Sometimes life is frustrating. Sometimes people are frustrating. Sometimes you're frustrated with yourself. And just taking a minute to pause. Physiologically, there's something that happens when we take a breath and pause, okay? Our shoulders drop, our chest opens up, but guess what else happens? Our mind opens up and possibilities start to come into our mind. Somebody asks you a question and you don't quickly know the answer. You know what? Give me just a moment. I want to make sure I frame my words right. And just take that pause. Maybe somebody says something and it hurts your feelings. Don't react. Take a minute to pause, and then you can respond or choose not to respond. Either way, whatever it is, professionally and compassionately, right? Because we don't know what that person was going through that caused them to show up and say something that hurt our feelings, okay? The power of the pause. Next is the plate you're served. Okay, so The scenario that I just shared for the limiting beliefs, that's a perfect example of the plate you're served. Well, we've always done the scheduling this way. Okay. The plate you're served is when you're eating off the same plate day after day. Sometimes you don't even know how that plate got there, but you just keep eating off the plate. You don't even like the food. Okay. And it's stopping and saying, why are we doing this? Okay. Remember the curiosity that we spoke about on a previous slide? That is very helpful here. Why are we doing it this way? How helpful is this? Is this causing downstream negative, painful, harmful impact? Maybe it is. And why are we doing this? Is there a better way? Okay, that's the plate you're served. It's opening your eyes to looking at what's going on around you and how helpful this is to creating the workplace environment that you want. Because a lot of times we have a vision, we have aspirations, we're clear on what we want, but we don't quite know how to get there. That awareness that I spoke about is so key, being aware to what's happening, okay? So some indicators that you can use as you're working through these three is, are you present? Okay. Are you listening? And are you receptive? Receptive to new ideas. So these are some indicators for you. Again, we've got a worksheet. So some questions around power of the pause. Am I present? What's preventing me from being present? Am I listening? How can I be a better listener? Am I receptive to other ideas, ways of thinking? How can I be more receptive? So when we stay in the who, what, where, why, when, this creates open-ended questions versus do you like this? Yes, no. That gets us nowhere, okay? But staying in the what, where, who, why, when we can do that, and the how, okay? This creates dialogue. This creates opportunities. This creates ways for us to move forward in a positive way. The limiting beliefs. This is for you to write down, to be aware, start to intentionally pay attention. What are some limiting thoughts that I'm noticing coming through? Don't judge, just write it down. How about some actions? Do I have limiting actions? Okay. What about, because a lot of times we'll have thoughts. Those thoughts turn into action. Those actions repeatedly turn into habits. Have I noticed any limiting habits? So you can write this down, and then you can start to put together a plan of how you're going to stop doing that. And then the plate you're served. Looking at the reality and saying, hey, these are some areas that we do things because the reality, so a perfect example is sometimes leaders, we inherit a team, okay? And with that team that we inherited, we've got some really awesomeness, and we don't want to mess with that. But sometimes we also have some opportunities where it could be a little bit better, or we've got some significant opportunity here. Looking at the plate you're served, okay? Looking at that and saying, here are these areas of opportunity. I'm not sure why we're doing this, but let's write this down, because just because we're doing it now, does that mean we need to continue doing it? And it's being clear on, what is my vision? What do I want my workplace to look like? What do I want it to feel like? What do I want my employees and my clients customers to experience? And are the processes that we've designed, are our people leaders, how they're acting? Is our physical environment, does that all align to create the experience that we're wanting? If not, then those are some areas that you can write down on the plate I've been served. And then you can write down, but this is what I want. This is my vision. This is the way I want it to be. And then you can put together a plan of how you're going to make that happen. All right. So the reality is, folks, you can be a compassion catalyst. Okay. How you show up can transform, because when we show up, we create a ripple effect. It's absolutely. And as a compassion catalyst, that's what we do. We create a ripple effect. So just think about what you want the world to be around you, and you show up like that first. And I would love it if you all followed me on social media. I'm all over the place under Start with Compassion. You're also welcome to book me. That'll take you to my website. Book me as a motivational speaker. I would love to come into your companies and talk with you. Everybody from CRIC, all of you attendees, Paula, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. It was such an honor. And everybody, don't forget to always start with compassion. Hope you have a great rest of your time at the conference. Take care, everybody. Bye.